We have already covered coordinate grids, aka coordinate graphs, aka coordinate planes. Remember, I told you that you could name them, any of those, they all mean the same thing. We learned about ordered pairs. We learned about the x coordinate and the y coordinate in an ordered pair. X always comes before y, just like in the alphabet. We learned how to plot points on a coordinate grid using our x and y coordinates. So now we're going to be looking at tables and interpreting tables and putting that information from the table onto a graph. Okay, so just remember your x always comes before y. In a table, it's set up similar. Okay, yes.
What am I going to do exponents so I'm not going to?
We won't in 5th grade. You won't until 6th grade. Okay, so what I'm going to go ahead and twist this around so that I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, you guys do not have this page. You have the 2 middle pages. So there's actually 4 pages of class practice that we would be doing together if we had the textbook. But we're only going to do the 2 middle pages together. So I'm going to go over this one with you so you're just watching. You're not doing anything. You are just watching and listening, making sure that you're paying attention so that you kind of understand what we're about to do together. Okay, our learning target for today is to be able to graph and interpret data in a coordinate plane. Again, that plane can be called a graph or a grid. Okay, the table shows the amount of snow that fell each day for 7 days. We're going to represent that information in the table as ordered pairs. So I'm pulling out everything from this table and listing these numbers as an ordered pair. So the very first ordered pair that I have would be written as 1, 2. Remember, ordered pairs always have parentheses around them and they are separated by a comma. Okay, the next ordered pair would be what? 2, 4. Then 3, 6. Last,
4, 6.
actually not last, but next. And then 5, 8.
6, 10, 17, 14.
Okay, good. So y'all feel good about pulling information out of a table and listing them as an ordered pair, okay? So moving on. Now we're going to use those ordered pairs and we're going to plot those points on the coordinate grid below. Notice my days are here on the x-axis. My amount of snow in inches is labeling my y-axis. Am I counting by the same thing? Is my scale on the x-axis and the y-axis the same?
No, because there's on the y is 16, on the x is 8.
So what am I counting by on the x-axis? Remember, x is horizontal.
You're counting by 1 to 8, and then on 16 you're counting by 2.
Very good. So notice that whenever we plot our points, I'm not going to actually go up 2 spaces to represent 2, okay? All right, so here's my first point. I'm going to represent my ordered pair 1, 2. So I'm going to go over 1 day up 2 inches. Then I'm going to go over 2 days up to 4 inches. Over to 3 days up to 6 inches. What's my next point going to be?
5 to 8 inches.
You skipped 1.
5, 4, wait,
Over
4 days is 6 inches.
Okay, so did it go up here?
No.
It did not. Okay, so what does that mean then? Think about what I'm showing. Think about what I'm comparing.
Not the same amount of rainfall between 3 and 4.
Snowfall, right. So my snow over 7 days, I had 2 inches of snow on day 1. I got 2 more inches of snow on day 2. I got 2 more inches of snow on day 3. But on day 4, I didn't get any snow. It just stayed where it was. But then on day 5, what happened?
You got 8 inches.
I went up to 8 inches of snow. Day 6,
You got 10 inches of snow.
I'm up to, 10 inches of snow. And then
you
day
got
7.
14 inches of snow.
So what day did I get the most snowfall?
You got 14 inches of snow on day 7.
Very good. So, guys, the side conversations really can't happen. Okay. So what day then did I get the most snow?
Day 7.
Day 7. Okay. In this box, it says, describe how the snowfall changed over the 7 days. That's what I was going through with you. So I want you thinking about what is happening as my days go on. Am I getting more snow overall as the days go on, or am I getting less snow? More and more and more, because my dots are going up and up and up, right? To show that I'm getting more and more and more. Okay, the next one. This one we're doing together. So I need you to make sure you have a pencil. All right, this says that data are values collected from observations or measurements. Data, data, tomato, tomato. You say it how you want to say it, okay? Basically, data is what we collect from observations or sometimes measurements. You can use a coordinate plane or graph to graph and interpret two different categories of related data. So the one we just did was days to snow, like weather. Weather is a great category to use to graph data. And a lot of times on the news, you may even see like some sort of a graph or a chart or something to show change in weather. Okay, our example given to us now is about video games. It says, the table shows how many gold bars you could collect at each level of a video game. Graph that data. And how many levels do you collect more than 30 gold bars? So this example is completely done for us, so we're going to just talk about it. Okay, what I have here is a horizontal table. This is like my X value. The gold bars are like my Y value. So if you look at your graph over here, my levels are labeling my X-axis, and then the gold bars are labeling the Y-axis. So if I plot these ordered pairs, it'd be like if I wrote 125 right here. That's my first point I want to plot. So I go over 1 up to 25. Is everybody with me so far?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm taking each one of these and plotting that point over here onto the graph. Okay, then it says you collect more than 30 gold bars in how many levels?
You collected on the level 2, level 3, level 5.
Yep, so how many dots, how many points are those?
More than 30.
So
On level 2, you got 40.
So this is one level, 2 levels, 3 total levels. Does everybody understand that? The points are representing the levels. The question is asking, how many levels did I collect more than 30 gold bars? So what Chase is seeing is he's looking over here at 30, and it's like this invisible line. Okay, I want to see anything above that line. How many dots do I have above that line?
3.
3. That's representing my levels. So I have 3 levels. That's why there's a 3 there. Okay, are we good so far?
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going because we're going to actually do an example together. Okay, the table shows the water levels of a portion of a river during a flood. We're going to graph the data. So it's raining really hard. We've got a river. Of course, while it's raining, it's going to do what? That river level is going to do what? Rise. Okay, so in 1 hour's time, I have 5 feet of water. After 2 hours, it rises to how many?
8.
8. You guys should be plotting your points along with me. This is one where we do together. After 3 hours, it's up to 10 feet. After 4 hours, it's 11 feet. And then what happens at 5 hours?
At 5 hours, it goes to 7.
It starts to go back down. And then in 6 hours, it goes down to 5. So it's back to where we started. Okay, so this is going to look, if I were to connect these points just to show the trend, you can kind of see that it was rising rapidly the first how many hours? 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. The first 4 hours, we had a ton of rain, okay? I don't think the river was ever at 0 feet. I'm assuming the river maybe started at 5, maybe a little bit below. We don't really know. It doesn't tell us. But we can assume that it's somewhere between 0 and 5 feet because after an hour, it is here. So whether it was raining during that time or after an hour of the predicted storm, this is where we're at. And then it's raining, so the water level rises. So when was the water level the highest?
Hour 4, it was 11 feet high.
4 hours. Good. Okay, how are we doing so far?
Great.
All right, go to the next page. On this one, our example says that our table shows the number of eggs laid by a sea turtle in each of 6 years. We are going to graph the data. So again, this time I have a vertical graph or a vertical table. So each one of these is representing a coordinate. This is my X coordinate. This is my Y coordinate. Together they make an ordered pair. So I'm going to plot 125 for my first year. So in year 1, there were 25 eggs. In year 2, how many eggs?
40.
In year 3, how many?
10.
Okay, somebody other than Chase. In year 4, how many eggs?
35.
In year 5, how many eggs?
30.
And then year 6?
30.
50. Okay. So here's my data. It is kind of scattered all over the place. The question below says, what does the point 125 mean? What does it represent?
What point? What?
What does the point 125? So I'm looking right here.
It took 1 year to lay 25 eggs.
Yes. So in year 1, there were 25 eggs in year 1. Your practice, you're going to have problems just like some of the ones that we're doing right now. So if you have questions, ask now before you get to your independent practice. Okay, does everybody understand this question? You're going to have a question just like this. What does the point 125 represent? You have to be able to tell me, okay, 1 is right here representing my years. So 1 year, 25, what is this over here representing?
That's
number of eggs.
Y coordinate.
Okay, and my Y is talking about the number of eggs. So in 3 years, how many eggs did we lay?
You laid 10 eggs.
10. Okay, in 5 years, how many eggs did they lay?
30.
Okay, what year did they lay the most eggs?
They laid the most eggs in year 6.
Very good. Okay, do y'all see how you can use a graph and just look at that? You don't even have to have it in words or a table or anything. You can literally just have the graph and answer questions about it. Okay, let's go down to the next one. This one says that our table shows the number of teams at a robotics competition in each of 4 years. Graph the data for years 1 through 4. So we're going to graph that data first. I'm going to have you do that, and then we're going to check it together. So do it on your own paper. You can do it as a group if you want to help each other, but then we're going to check it as a whole group. Remember, you want to go over first, then up. So for my first point, I'm going to go over to 1, up to 10. For my second point, I go over to 2, up to 25, which is right between 20 and 30. My third point, I go over to 3, up to 40, and then I go over to 4, up to 55. Find a pattern in the numbers of teams at the competition. What is my pattern each time?
Your pattern's going up by 15.
Yes, I'm adding 15 each time. So I'm adding 15 here, plus 15 here, and so on. Which means if I complete this table and I add 15 to year 4, that means in year 5, I have how many teams?
70.
If I add 15 more,
85.
and then 15 more.
100.
So there's my completed table. I'm adding 15 each time. That is my pattern. We practiced finding patterns in tables several weeks ago. Now we're using those skills that we've developed already to form graphs and you do something with that data. Okay. Now we're going to graph that data too. So we're going to add those points onto my graph as well. So year 5, I'm at 70. Year 6, I'm at 85. And then 7, I'm at 100. And if I were to connect these points to show my trend,
It's a straight diagonal line.
it is a straight diagonal line. And that actually means that it's rising at a constant rate. So it's increasing at the exact same amount each year. 15 more each year. That's why it's a straight line. Okay, last one that we're doing together today. Which statement is not true about this graph right here? Okay, first let's look at it. The title is fair attendance. Down here is the number of days. Over here is the number of people. So letter A says the categories of data are the days of the fair and the number of people at the fair. Is that true to this graph?
It's B.
Is this graph showing days compared to the number of people that
Yes, it is.
Yes, it
showing.
is. That we have days compared to the number of people at a fair.
It's
Okay, the greatest number of people attended the fair on day 3. Is that true? If I look at day 3,
Wait, oh no, it is.
is this my highest point?
Yes.
Yes, so that one is false. More than 100 people attended the fair on 4 of the days. More than 100.
That's
So
false, because 150 did.
So remember when we earlier kind of drew that line and we were looking above it, it says more than 100 people. So I've got to look above that 100 mark. Okay, so that one says more than 100 people attended the fair on 4 of the days. How many days were there more than 100 people? 1, 2, 3. So is that true?
Yes. False.
On 4 of the days.
There's only 3.
I have 1, 2, 3 days. So that is
I
false.
was right.
This one is probably going to be my answer, but let's look at D. It says 50 fewer people attended the fair on day 1. Well, how many attended the fair on day 1? 50. How many attended the fair on day 5?
100.
So is it 50 fewer people on day 1 versus day 5? Yes. So the last one is true, which means C is the only one that is false.
50 is 50.
Again, here it says more than 100 people on 4 of the days. The part that makes this false is this part right here. it should be 3. Okay. The last part, this part is just more practice for you to see. No, you do not. It says, we're just looking at this part right here on the board. So everybody's going to stay still for a minute. Okay. This graph is showing me sleep time and quiz scores. It says how many hours 5 students slept the night before a quiz and their quiz scores based on the hours of sleep that they got. Graph the data. So I have 5 students, A, B, C, D, E. We're not going to list names because we don't want them to feel embarrassed if we give their score, okay? Student A, it shows us, slept for 7 hours, and they scored 8. We're assuming this is out of 10, okay? So 8 out of 10. So student A, who slept 7 hours, got 8 points. So I'm going to plot my point on here, over to 7, up to 8. That would be considered like an 80. Student B slept for 8 hours and got 8 also. Student C, who slept for 9 hours, got 9 points. D, who slept for 8 hours, got 10 points. And E, who slept for 7 hours, got 9 points also. So of the students who slept more than 7 hours, how many scored more than 8 points?
3.
Look carefully. More than 7 hours. So I don't want to look at these. I want to look at all 3 of these. How many scored more than 8 points? Here's 8. This is exactly 8. How many scored more than 8? 1, 2. Only 2. So of the students, 2 who slept more than 7 hours scored more than 8 points. You can't be 8 or more. It's more than. Okay. All right. The last one gives us some data on a graph. It says it's showing us how many receiving yards a football player had in each of 8 games. Did the player have more receiving yards in the first 4 games or the last 4 games? So we're looking at each of my games down here. I'm looking at just the first half. So these 4 points here. Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. So it says, did the player have more receiving yards in the first 4 games? Here's all their yards. 20 plus 30 is how much?
50.
Plus another 50?
100.
Plus 60.
160.
Okay, so in the first 4 games, they had 160 yards.
Good job.
In the last 4, we had 40 plus 40, which is
80.
plus 20, which is 100, plus 50, 150.
50. Yeah.
So how many more yards?
10.
It was by 10 yards. But was it the first 4 or the last 4 that they had more?
The first 4.
Yeah, very good.
Woo!
Okay,
I don't know what a first 4 was.
your practice is going to look very similar to what we just did. Okay? We have a couple more that we're going to look at, and then you're going to do your practice.
Wait, did we not do number 6? Find a pattern in the...
We did.
We did.
And then we plotted those points too. Okay, here we have an example of sleep time and quiz scores. It says the table shows how many hours 5 students slept the night before a quiz and their quiz scores. Graph the data. So out of 10, student A scored 8 points and had 7 hours of sleep. So down here, this is the hours of sleep. This is their score. So I'm going to go over to 7. I'm going to go up to 8 to show student A's data. Student B had 8 hours of sleep and scored, 8 points. I went too high. Student C slept for 9 hours and scored 9 points. Student D slept for 8 hours and scored 10 points. And then student E slept for 7 hours and scored 9 points. So here's all my data. The question says, of the students who slept more than 7 hours, which 7 am I looking at? This 7 for hours or this 7 for hours?
You're looking at the bottom.
The bottom, the x-axis. Very good, because down here is my time. So it says more than 7 hours, which means that if I draw that invisible line, I want to look beyond here. So I want to look to the right of that line. Okay, so then it says how many scored more than 8 points of the students that have slept more than 7 hours.
1,
So now I want to look above that line. So how many?
2.
2. I have this one and this one. So my answer is 2 students. Do y'all see how that works? You guys can draw lines through it. If you need to, draw those lines, okay, to help you visualize it better. All right, we're going to stop there, and you guys are going to get your practice page.